Sunny Side Up podcast is a space to talk openly about the storms in life and tools to get through them. When we speak our truths, although it can be scary, we realize we are not alone. Others come forward and feel seen. Our courage creates brave conversations and a support system starts to align. We realize that we're more alike than different, and sharing is not so scary when light emanates from dark spaces. All right, so let me tell you about my friend Meghan, who is on with us today. I'm really excited for two things. One, that we get to spend some time together. And two, that she is finally on Sunny Side Up podcast with us, just jumping up and down for this conversation. And normally my way of doing this is I will start with a bio of who my guest is and why I love them and all the things. But I'm going to start a little different today because God was calling me to share Meghan's own words. And it's really cool how this podcast always works. The timing of when the guest comes on. And then also Meghan just happened to post this today. Like literally this morning, she posted this. So I'm going to read it. And if you guys are out there listening, this intro, you might even want to get your notebook out because it is powerful. And this is what Meghan had to say on the gram this morning. When you finally actualize the frequency of being a leader who goes first, the frequency of being a clear channel that God can create through, of someone who can hold the hands of their clients while they travel through the depths of their hearts and souls so they can become the highest version of themselves. The investment that I have made in myself have allowed for personal and spiritual growth that I could never have imagined. Community and true friendships, the ability to see and experience what is actually possible in this lifetime. When you stay where you are, you only see what you always see. When you stay where you are, you only see what you always see. Investing in myself physically shows me that my dreams can and will become reality. I jump into the next level, even when it feels scary, because I know, trust, and believe that God is waiting to catch me on the other side. Always, every time. September feels like a brand new year. DM me, waitlist, if you want to stay in the know on my upcoming things. Upcoming workshop in October, Nevada retreat in November, which we're kind of starting with the end and then moving to the beginning, but that's okay because we're going to talk about all these things and what Meghan Stimmel has coming up. Brand new mastermind starting in January. And then she just gives more praise to God to become the beautiful person that she has become, to open and heal her heart. Welcome, Meghan. What an amazing thing that you wrote this morning, an amazing being that you are.
Allie, my friend Allie, thank you so much for it. It's always so cool to hear somebody else read your words because, when it really flows through, like, I always say those words come from God. Those aren't even my words, but it feels so beautiful and you don't know how it's going to land, but to hear somebody speak them, like I had tears in my eyes. So thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And I just love and adore you and the work that you do in the world. So thank you.
Thank you. Right back at you. It kind of felt like poetry a little bit reading that, huh?
It did, and sometimes it just hits you. And I don't post all the time for that reason. Like I really want them to be spirit led and like Holy Spirit filled. And then when you have those moments when they just come through, it's like, I can't wait to get to a computer,
I know. I love those moments. And that goes to show you too. I mean, I think it's so true that some days you're on and some days you're not. Some days you're inspired and other days you need to be inspired, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's giving yourself grace to move through how you feel in those moments.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to have you do your own bio. Who are you?
I love getting asked this question. So I am a holistic psychotherapist. So I have a master's in social work. I run a private practice with a friend of mine in Ann Arbor doing psychotherapy, which I really love. I've been doing that for a few years now. but I feel like I'm kind of moving away from that a little bit and really circulating the energy towards my own business and what I'm creating, kind of like what you mentioned by reading my posts. I've got some really fun retreats coming up. I get to serve my private clients in a way that is really creative, that focuses on their mind, heart, body, and spirit, and a combination of those things through their healing and transformation journey. Um, and then, just doing some couples workshops and collaborating and co-creating with amazing people. So I'm kind of in this transition right now. And I think you're seeing that in the way I'm showing up on social media and the way that I'm speaking about my story and, just shifting from the traditional to more an authentic expression of myself. So this feels really beautifully timed, to be here with you talking about it all.
For sure. And it actually, what you just said reminded me the first time we met, and the reason that we met was because of the Sunshine House, correct? Okay.
Yes.
And so a year ago, you rented the Sunshine House to lead a creation of yours, right? That was you leading a group of women,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And what were you leading them through at that time?
Well, I feel like that was really the beginning of me starting my own business. And I was leading them through. Me and a really good friend of mine from Toronto, we brought some women together to lead them through healing and just really digging deep into healing and honoring themselves. It's kind of like their beginning of something new and my beginning of something new. And it was just cool, the people that came together to have that experience, and just nourish themselves and honor themselves. And that's what the Sunshine House is, such a great place to do that at. Just honoring, nourishing yourself, just having fun, being together with great people. So it was a great experience. But yeah, the beginning of really what I was creating and who I really am in my authentic expression.
That's really fun to have been at the very beginning of that process and then to
Yeah.
watch you evolve. And then the same for me because the Sunshine House was a very sacred idea, but sometimes with sacred ideas, it's not the right container or it's not the right time. And so you are one of, maybe 24 groups that actually got to use the Sunshine House as a holistic healing space. And that fills me up. I've had some grief about it, but it fills me up that the people that were able to use it in that way. And I think that's a really good point to make too, that we have these different journeys in our life and these experiences that we have that don't turn out the way that we thought they would, and we can have all the emotions about that. And it's what we decide to do, with that information and how we move forward. So,
Well, yeah.
which actually reminds me a lot of your story. I mean, I was reading about your story in the pre-notes that you filled out and, how you made lemonade out of lemons. So, for real. So tell
Thank
us,
you.
the question in the form is, what are you most proud of? And you kind of dove in and shared with us what you're most proud of, but then that also led into the struggles. So, what are you most proud of?
Mm. My friend Ellie, I filled that out in such a raw, beautiful moment. And I don't exactly remember what I wrote, but at the top of my head, what I'm most proud of, and I would think this would align with what I wrote, is the mom that I've become and the way that I really get to show up for my son. Being a mom, especially, I got pregnant really unconventionally. It wasn't planned. And it was a really hard journey that I walked through. And I know that's like that with so many moms. And I didn't deal with it in the best way. And I used alcohol as a way to cope with me losing a part of my identity and not feeling supported and feeling like I was doing everything on my own and not wanting the help. And I really pushed it away, right, when it was there, and feeling like I have to do this all on my own, or else I don't prove that I'm worthy or that I can do it. All those old patterns and conditionings that I've, worked so hard the past 8 years to really move through. But being able to show up as, a single mom who has built what I've built and is happy and is so free. And I get to give that gift not only to myself, but to my son. And he gets to see that and he gets to experience the best version of me. So I could create all the, containers and workshops. And I love that. It's so, I know it's God moving through me, and I'm so grateful for that. And I'm proud of that. But to be the mom that I always knew I could be, like sitting in this chair in this moment, talking to you, having this conversation, like, oh my God, I have chills. Like, it's all God, truly. I followed his way, and I really surrendered to his plan, even when I was crying on my bathroom floor, like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. He was like, it's gonna be hard, but I got you, and you're gonna do it. And I was like, we've all had those breakthrough moments, or those moments when we've just really heard God and felt the power of that moving through us. And so thank you for asking me that question. It's so great to reflect on and just remember, why I do what I do. So
That is very almost exact to how you answered before. And that's okay that you didn't remember. I mean, that's very common that I'll ask people questions in advance just to kind of prepare for the podcast, and then the answer is different. But being a mom in of itself is, I mean, I think it's one of the greatest honors. And how could it not be one of the things you're most proud of? And I do think we have our moments. I mean, nobody tells you how to be a mom. Nobody hands you a handbook and says, these are the traumas you haven't worked through and how you're going to be projecting on your children. You just get in those moments and you're like, oh, wow, I recognize that that's what I'm doing. And you either decide, I want to change that, or you continue to do it. I mean, really, there's only two ways. I've had so many moments. My boys are 9. McCoy just turned 9 and almost 11. And I mean, I remember when they were babies, writing down in my journal, I don't want to be a mom that yells. And I found myself yelling. And because I consciously wrote that down and made that effort, I had to find ways to stop being a mom that yelled. And I did, because I consciously made that effort. And now that they're 9 and 11, the challenges look different. And when they become teenagers, the challenges will look different, right? What are some challenges in parenting, if you don't mind sharing? What are some challenges in parenting that you've had and that you've, kind of overcome, or maybe your path and your work that you're doing in this world has helped you with that?
yeah, and it's always interesting to reflect on yourself as the kids move through ages, right? And what was challenging before is so easy, but then there's new challenges. So and I co-parent with Keegan. So my challenges in parenting, I think, are, I don't want to say different than other people's, because there's a lot of people who co-parent. But I think the biggest challenge is making sure that we're on the same page. And when we're not, it's like being able to communicate that effectively, because kids feel everything. Right? And you're in this world, like we know that our energy and the way that we are feeling about ourselves seeps out into the relationships that we have. Right? And so that's something that, I really try to take from the work that I do. And I talk about relationships and the balance that we have in relationships, whether it's your relationship with your children, your spouse, money, your job. I mean, whatever you have a relationship with, if you can find this like flow and this balance where you're not attached to, or like they're not attached to any outcome, or attached to like that person or that relationship making you feel a certain way, it's free. You are connected to it. You're not attached to it. That is something that really helps me when I'm moving through these challenges, and remembering that everyone's our biggest teacher. And if we can allow them to teach us, instead of, why are they doing this to me? Or my life would be so much better if I didn't have to deal with this, marriage, co-parenting, whoever you have to be in this like really tight relationship with, is always going to come with a challenge, and you're not going to agree on everything. And there's going to be, an argument maybe, or whatever. But if you can look at that person and be like, wow, you're showing me so much of myself that is still needing attention and healing and love and support. And that's where you're like, okay, now I like know where to dig deep so that I can show up better. And then in turn, have, you know, these relationships that feel more balanced and more synergistic and just feel a lot better in your heart and your soul, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Life is our greatest teacher, right?
Yeah.
It can bitch slap us, or it can bring the sunshine. Yeah, all of those things. Well, thank you for sharing that because I know there's a lot of parents out there that are navigating co-parenting, or a lot of people out there listening that maybe just recently got divorced and have no clue how to co-parent. I mean, again, that's another thing they don't give you a handbook for, and that has to be so hard, you know?
It's again, you know, we've been doing this now for 8 years, so I feel like I don't want to
Yeah.
say I'm not an expert in anything. I always am here to learn and grow, but it's cool to, you know, talk to potential clients or talk to people that are, you know, I run into in random places and they're, wow, how do you do it? That feels so far away from me. Like I hate this person. You know, there's so many big emotions when you're feeling, you know, like your time with your kid is threatened, or like the decisions that and opinions and thoughts and feelings that you have are not honored in the way that you think they should be honored about your children. I mean, your children are like, you know, you're like, I'm gonna go to death for my children, right? So there's really strong emotions there. Um, and I'm like, wow, it's so cool to be the one that people are asking for advice from now because, you know, 7, 8 years ago, that was not that was not the case. So it's really cool to see your growth in that way. And I think that's why we go through, you know, I know for me, and I shared so much of my story with you. In those moments, you don't realize why you're moving through those things or why God's asked you to walk this certain path. And once you're out of it, you realize that your testimony, like you're just living proof that miracles are really possible. I believe that they are miracles. Like, I mean, you know, they are possible, and that's why he's asked you to walk through them.
Well, that's a beautiful perspective. And I think that's exactly what it is a perspective. Because if you view God working through you, and even in the times where we fall off because we're human, if your North Star is God and you do follow, you know, His word, His guidance, or you feel the Holy Spirit and the presence and faith as a part of your journey, um, you will always see yourself to the other side, I guess, you know, where you feel hopeless and those moments of hopelessness in life. um you know, maybe we're void, maybe we are stuck in the darkness and can't see that light because we're void of that faith. I mean, I don't know anything for certain, but
Mhm.
I know that my faith has been my North Star as well. And you called it a perspective, and it is a perspective because somebody could have gone through something very parallel to you or parallel to me and have a completely different experience, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's also how we cope. You know, you mentioned alcohol. My coping mechanisms with PTSD or trauma looked different than yours, so we all have these different coping mechanisms, right? um Do you find that healing from PTSD and the trauma of everything you went through, do you find that the tools you used are the tools you now coach with?
That's a really great question. And to shed some light a little bit about the PTSD that I went through, we went through a really bitter custody battle that was really, really hard for me. And I was coming off of being divorced, so I really hadn't processed the emotions and feelings and like what had actually happened and the experiences that led to that divorce. I hadn't really processed that. And then to have, you know, the time that you have with your child in limbo and it's in the hands of somebody that you don't even know, that was I can only describe as not wanting to be in my body anymore. And for me, alcohol took me to a place where I didn't need to feel any of that at all. It also caused me to feel like I had a voice again because I felt so small and diminished and just beat down and like stupid and ashamed and guilty and like all these things. So it really allowed me to like have a voice again. And that's how I coped through um that's how I coped through that. And when I came out of that and I was like, what? God, okay, I'm gonna do this. This is the hardest thing I've ever done, but I'm gonna do it. And that's when he said, it's gonna be hard, but I've got you. It was began this journey of like putting together all these pieces of what helped me heal. I was on this like research assignment, Allie. And I didn't know that at the time, but that's exactly what I was doing because traditional psychotherapy wasn't enough for me. I needed so much deeper work. And to me, that's God, but to other people, that's, source, that's energy healing, that's, relaxing, I mean, whatever it is that works for you. But I started just researching all of those things I just mentioned, and I put them together in this way of mind, body, heart, spirit, like leaning into all these things and being super curious. And I find that in the work that I do, people know how to think positive thoughts. They can do that. That's really cool. It's really, positive thinking is great. Being able to cognitively reframe is all really helpful. But your trauma and your experiences and your memories are stored in your body and they're stored in your heart. Your heart is such a beautiful place and we have so many walls around it. And when you open your heart, right? When I can help people do that, then they're more connected to their spirit. Then they're more connected to God. Then they can feel like the flow of everything. And that's when you become the frequency of being. You're just you. You are just you. You're in the flow of it all. So I mean, it's a beautiful process and it takes time, but you never will know what that feeling is like until you try, until you start. Even if you can't see the end, you just put one foot in front of the other every day and just get curious, research, experiment, and see. And then you have your own perspective, right?
Not only your own perspective, but a unique offering. So you took life's assignment, and I wrote down the words your research assignment, and you took that life's lessons, made it a research assignment for mind, body, heart, and spirit, and turned it into work, important work for yourself and now for others. And that's so freaking cool. Like, I think that is so freaking cool. Um, Trauma is stored in the heart. And I did not know we were going to go here today, but I have to at least ask you the question. My mind was completely blown in class last weekend. So I go to the Naturopath Institute in Mount Pleasant, and it was Anatomy 2. Okay. So you drive your car, do a weekend of Anatomy 2, and you're thinking there's going to be a skeleton and you're going to be learning about the bones and the muscles and all the things we learned in Anatomy 1, right? But more advanced. Not a naturopath school, girl. My teacher said, did you guys know the heart's not a pump? You're shaking your head. Did you know the heart's not a pump?
I saw a post on this. When was it? This week sometime. Did you post it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So theory whatever you want, theorize whatever you want, go back to everything we've ever been taught in life, in any realm of school. If you're a doctor, if you're an MD, if you are in high school or college, whatever, the heart's a pump, right? That's what we're taught. But if you actually look this up, it shows that the heart is a vortex of energy, right? A vortex that when the heart squeezes and contracts and then opens up, that it's sending all the blood and everything to, the capillaries, the veins, everything throughout the body, that if the heart was actually a pump, it wouldn't actually be able to sustain the amount of force that's required to get that blood and oxygen to the rest of the body. And so this guy, you can look it up on YouTube. There's a guy named Dr. Gabriel, and I can post it in the link. And then there's also this other video that I shared, and I believe it's called the Heliac Heart, if I'm saying that correct, the Heliac Heart. And when he dissected the heart, instead of cutting the four chambers that we usually do if we dissect a pig heart or, any other animal heart we dissect, he he kind of used his thumb and sliced it in a way that the heart opened like a rope almost. It opened and unwound. And then when he put it back together, you could see that the heart came back together like a vortex. And again, my mind was just blown. And when you say that trauma is stored in the heart, and you realize that we are electrical beings and that everything is connected, that heart work is so crucial to heal the body, right?
Thank you for sharing that. I am full body chills over here, and I almost am crying because I'm feeling so connected to what you're saying, and it's so powerful. Like I am full body chills. Um, and I didn't know the depth of what you just said. That was so deep and beautiful. And thank you so much for
You
sharing
mean
that.
nerdy? That was so nerdy.
That was so anatomy too. But it was so beautiful because what an explanation for something that's so powerful. You know, we always focus on the brain, and the brain is powerful and all the things, but the heart is more powerful than that. Right. And if we think about all of our experiences that we've had in the, you know, where the grief lies, where does the grief live? Where does the shame live? Where does the guilt live? Where does the resentment live? Where does the, you know, not being able to forgive yourself and other people, right? Like all of that. But also, where does the joy live? Where does the happiness live? You know, all of these emotions live here in your heart. So it's just so, I think, vital and essential and important that that's where I really focus most of my work, because that's the portal to everything. And if you're still closed here, you're never going to be able to open to experience what is actually possible for you, because you're not going to be able to, you know, open to receive or trust or surrender or feel like, you know what? If God's asking me to do this, or like, if this is what's coming through for me that I need to do right now, I'm going to jump and I'm going to be caught, because like I have so much trust. I trusted so much, but if your heart is closed, you'll never open to actually trusting that big. So, and it's a process, right? Like you don't just like wake up one day and you're like, I trust everything. I surrender to it all. I mean, maybe you do, but there's work that goes into actually being able to feel that expansion. Right?
Okay, so just a teaser. What does that work look like? How do you start to open your heart? And this could be what it looks like to work with you, or just some simple steps to open your heart, wherever you want to take it.
So something that I love to just throw out there is you can feel where something lives in your body. So if you're talking, and you know this, right? If you're someone's talking about, you know, we'll just use like death as an example because that's a really easy one for grief. When you start talking about that or someone asks you about it, you can feel that ping in your heart. You know where that energy lives. And that's what it is, just energy, right? It's an energy. And we live in a society that's gotten so much better about being open to talking about emotions and feelings and experiences, but it's still something that people, you know, push down because they don't want to burden other people with their stuff, or they feel like, you know what, like I'm over that. I'm over that guy. I'm over that death. Like it happened. It's okay. But that's just your mind protecting you. It still lives in your body. It still lives in your heart. So the big thing that I focused on in the beginning is just talking and really digging deep into where that energy lives. What emotions are surrounded by it, and just digging deep into the root of the thing, and not just like putting a band-aid on it. Like I dig deep with people and they, you know, it's uncomfortable, but it's so freeing afterwards, right? The freedom that you feel. And then once you do it once, you're like, oh my God, it felt so good. And I want to do that again. And I want to do that again, right? I also take people through like deep meditative experiences where they're digging into their subconscious, you know, and we're going back to maybe that experience itself where those emotions started, and kind of like rewriting that timeline and rewriting that experience. So there's the deep aspect, and there's the talking aspect, and there's the putting yourself in situations where you are maybe forced to open your heart and do something different than what you've always done, you know, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and conversations that you might not want to have. And you're just going outside of your comfort zone a little by little by little.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Just to give people a little taste of what it's like to work with you, but then also, let's say they're never able to work with you in their lifetime, at least that little bit of how they could access that, and tap into that. And I know people can work with you one on one, but they can also find you in the community. Megan was at the Sunshine Retreat last year. So every May, I host a retreat in Highland, Michigan, and it's always the weekend after Mother's Day. So you can pencil it in right now. It's always the Saturday after Mother's Day. I think it's May 17th, 2025, whenever that Saturday is. And Megan came with heart math technology, right? She came with her heart math technology, if you've ever heard of that. And she had a line, like a line of people waiting to do this heart math. And I think that's really cool, not only because I love Megan and I know what a healer and how positive she is, but just that many people were interested in learning about their heart, their heart work. Um, so what is heart math? Can you tell us a quick and dirty and what heart math is?
Quick and nerdy. I'll do my best. Heart math is so cool. So you attach it to your ear and then just kind of like pin it on your shirt and it connects to an app and it really just measures the coherence or the balance and if there's an alignment between your brain and your heart. So it will actually scientifically measure the wave of if there is balance or coherence is what they call it in heart math, or not. And so what I do, just like a mini session, and which is what I did at the Sunshine Retreat, which is so beautiful, is I just took people through a 5-minute experience where 1 minute they were meditating on their relationship with themselves, and 1 minute they were meditating on their relationship with maybe their significant other or somebody close to them, and then their career, and then their relationship with their bodies and their health and their fitness and things, right? And so you can see, and I would show them the reading where it would dip into either high coherence, which means like there's a lot of balance, medium, which means like, yeah, you're doing pretty good. You feel pretty good about that, but could use some work. And then low coherence, which means there's really not a lot of balance in that area and you're feeling out of sync. There's something out of sync there. And not only does it give them a really just brief snapshot, but it gives me as the guider and facilitator a path forward. So we really start with where the low coherence is, because that's what needs the attention and love and support, right? So
I love that. Thank you. And you're coming back next year, right?
yay, yes, if you'll have me, I would be so honored.
Oh, 100%. We can talk offline about obviously doing heart math again, but then also just being there to share a lot of what we're talking about today, and maybe guiding, a longer session would be really incredible. Because the Sunshine Retreat really is all about these different tools that we talk about on Sunny Side Up, podcast as well. Um, I wanted to ask you, because we haven't used the word nervous system yet in our chat today. And I was chatting with a friend today, actually, and I truly believe, and she actually agreed to it, that she has been stuck in fight or flight for a very long time. And so, because she's stuck in fight and flight instead of rest and digest, everything she does and the way she shows up in this world is tense, just very tense. And because she doesn't know how to get her body back to that rest and digest, it's parasympathetic and sympathetic state. Um, she's never known how. And I wanted to bring this up because I think there's a lot of people out there that go, "Oh, that's me. I didn't know that was me. I didn't know I was stuck in this type A personality or this chronic state of stress," which we know stress is like the number one precursor to all of our illness, right? A lot of our illness. And in my world, I feel like I really learned, I would have to say, if somebody said, "Allie, what's the number one way to go from fight or flight to rest and digest, parasympathetic to sympathetic, and be able to get in and out?" I would say craniosacral therapy. Craniosacral therapy is like, I have literally watched people on my massage table transition and just soften and learn to breathe again. So, nervous system. What's your take on that? What's your in your line of work?
Yeah, and I love the work that you do. It's so transformative for so many people. And the fact that when you get to witness somebody, like you said, just soften, you're like, it's such a gift, right? It's such a gift. Again, I'm gonna cry. I don't know why I'm so emotional today. But when you're talking about like nervous system regulation, obviously the first thing that I go to is I feel like I always go to the heart, but that's the first place I go. But you're really creating safety and trust in your body, right? So do you actually trust your body? Do you feel safe in your body? And if you don't, which if you have a dysregulated nervous system, then why? And I would assume that there is a really deep, and I love to dig. I'm such a digger. I will find it, but there's a reason why you don't feel safe in your own self. So, there's a lot of ways that we can, breathing, cranial sacral, like all these ways, but usually there's like a really deep reason why there's no safety and trust within yourself or your body.
Oh, that's so true. And it seems so simple, but it actually, I just recorded a podcast episode with Melissa. And um, we talked about she does a lot of inner childhood work, and how if you didn't feel safe as a child, that safety and trust within yourself, I think you hit the nail on the head. Your nervous system will be dysregulated. So, one of the tools is to do that inner child work. What did little Allie need? What did little Megan need? What did you need that you didn't receive? And how do you find that place of safety? I think the other thing that we need to keep in mind is that when you say trust your body, um, let's say you are in a state of being, or a stage in your life where you're in menopause. Okay. So now it's a very physical. I don't trust my body because no matter what I eat, no matter how much I exercise, I'm not losing the weight. Okay. So now I'm making it very physical. But we stop trusting our body, and this isn't going to work and that's going to work. And then you get all hyper fixated at all the things that don't work. And we went from not feeling safe as a child and not trusting our body and the things that we feed it and how we nourish it. And it just becomes like cyclical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I bring that up because I feel like in my world, there's a lot of women that are really going through that. And maybe it's because I'm there too,
Yeah.
perimenopause, menopause, hormone issues, the physicality of that. So,
Yeah, and something that just comes to mind when you're talking about that is when you're feeling out of control, maybe in your body, and I don't claim to know everything. Again, this is just what's coming through, but when you're feeling like out of control in your body and you don't know where to go, and like that's when maybe you lean into those other parts of yourself. So maybe you're not trusting your body, but you're trusting, yourself, your spirit, your heart, um your mind. You're trusting those other parts of yourself to kind of come in and lead the way. Like, okay, who do I need to call to help me with this transition? Allie. I need to call Allie. She might have some good tips and tricks, or she might have some tools or services that would help. Um, what maybe I should research my diet. That maybe I'm eating the wrong thing. I know, just little things like you're tuning into maybe the other parts of yourself if you're feeling out of control in one other spot. Like your intuition will guide you. Your heart will guide you to the right place to help you balance and then trust your body again. I don't know. Like that's
yeah.
what, yeah. Does that resonate? I feel like that was big.
No, not only does it resonate, but I've been taking notes as we're chatting, and my professor said this past weekend, and I loved it so much. And you just segued me to say it. This is so powerful. Emotional chat today. We are in the womb for only 9 months instead of 12 because we need each other. So we're in the womb 9 months instead of 12 because we're not complete. We need each other. Goosebumps, right? When she
Over
said
here.
that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Like, God is so smart and so ever.
Yeah.
amazing that he knew, we're in the womb for 9 months instead of 12 because that final 3 months that we're out is we're incomplete. We're not incomplete in God, of course, but we need each other, you know?
Yeah.
Isn't
That's
that crazy?
that's like the final component.
Yeah, right.
That's so powerful. That this has been such a just beautiful segment with you. Like I feel like I've almost cried 3 times. I've had like goosebumps and chills the whole time. It's just so cool to be able to come together and talk about things that, for me, I wasn't always comfortable talking about, even like the God thing. And I know like that's just me and my own personal perspective and what I believe, and that's not for everybody, but I had a hard time speaking about God, you know, for just fear of what people would think. And, I had a hard time speaking about what I went through with like the custody battle and alcohol and like all those things. And to be able to come together with people that I love and respect and, feel like we are making a difference in the world by sharing our stories and our vulnerability. And that creates connection and like all those things. So it's just such a gift, Ellie.
Yeah, it is such a gift. And I want to remind you that you are the one, going back to the sunshine retreat. I was very intentional about the workshop. I could have hosted a workshop on reflexology or minerals or yoga. And I was very intentional in calling my workshop Sunshine in Scripture because it was my way of showcasing, I guess, if you will, that faith is number one to me and God is number one. And you said to me, in a way, in a very poetic way, like, you don't need to prove that. How you show up in this world is proof enough. You said that to me. And I felt called to do that. It's almost like a stamp, a statement, my statement of, and we won't go down this rabbit hole, but I think oftentimes in the wellness world, there is it's a gray area. It's not black and white, and you can't possibly be a woman of faith or a human of faith and believe these things. Like there's this push and this pull. And again, we won't go down the rabbit hole, but it just it felt right to me to do that. And it felt very beautiful to me to do that. And I don't know. I think there's a lot of power in following that intuition that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My hand over my heart right now because I remember that moment and it was so powerful and beautiful,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't something that everybody saw. It was like just between me and you. I'm gonna
Not
cry.
anymore. We're letting all of our secrets out.
That's so cool. Like I said, it creates these moments where like this is the magic. These are the miracles. Like this is the testimony and it's just so freaking cool and I feel so grateful to just be living this life.
Me
So,
too. Okay, so I have to ask you, just because I know we're limited on time. You have a podcast called Apricity. So I
yes.
need you to tell us what this super cool word apricity means.
Thank you for asking this beautiful question. So, I saw this and it was probably about a year ago. Apricity means the warmth of the sun in winter. And I just thought that was, I know, hand over my heart. I thought that was so beautiful because especially as people, Michiganders, like we live, it's so cold. It gets so cold and the sun isn't out all the time. And that feeling when it comes out and you're just so freezing is like, I don't know that I have an actual word to explain it, but we all know, I think, what that feels like. And that's the energy that I wanted to bring to the podcast and the words that I felt called to share because it's almost like an opening. It's like an opening of grace. It's like an opening of relief. Like it's gonna be okay and I'm not alone. And there's so much more to see. Like it's not over. So and I think I'm actually gonna start recording that podcast a little more regularly. So thank you for kind of putting that stamp for me, Miss Allie.
Okay, so I'm putting it out there. You might not believe this. I have never been on a podcast.
You could be my guest. Let's do it. I
I
would
mean,
love that.
again, I have goosebumps, but I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, what is she talking about? She has her own podcast. But I've never been on somebody else's podcast before. I mean, people have like mentioned it and we've talked about it, but maybe apricity. Maybe this is a sign.
Well, and like I said, it's interesting because there's so many fun things coming through for me as I've really stepped into this new level and
Yeah.
wanting to more regularly have this like as a designated every other Tuesday, I'm doing the podcast. So let's do
Yeah.
it.
Can
Let's
we?
do it. I would love that. I would be
I
so
would be so honored. I would be so honored. Yeah. So we go from sunny side up to the apricity, and it really all means the sun, which is the center of everything. So
It does. That's so
I
beautiful.
love it. I love it. Okay, so just to be sensitive to your time, and I know we have to get on with our day, and honestly, I feel like the sound bites that we could pull from this episode alone, so much power. So how we always end is, of course, with our hand on our heart, because that's what we do. So hand on your heart, eyes are closed, and you can take as much time as you need, or maybe it'll come to you. If there was one final thing that you want to tell the Sunny Side Up community, it can be any topic, anything, whatever's coming to you, what would that one final thing be?
I love that you do the hand over the heart. I think that sometimes there are not words, when I put my hand over my heart, like I don't have any words, but you feel me. So if there's one thing, we hit on this a little bit, well, a lot actually. Your heart is the portal to everything. Like I really do believe that. And not that I've just seen it in other people, but I've experienced it in my own self. You can only expand in your reality, in your life, and the things you want to create and do and dream and like all those things. You can only expand as widely as your heart has been expanded. So if you feel like you are stuck or stagnant or like you're just not where you want to be or you're in the wrong spot or something doesn't feel right, tune into your heart. It will tell you where to go. And usually that process isn't easy. It might be painful. It might be scary. You might have fear about that. But I can actually promise you that moving through that will expand your heart and therefore expand your ability to see and your capacity to receive and allow in and really surrender to, you don't have to do everything on your own. You really don't. So I would just say the portal to your heart is everything. And that's what I would leave you with.
I love that. Thank you very much. And the portal to your heart sounds like a book. A book
Oh,
you should write.
I maybe have been feeling like I should write a book sometime soon. I was thinking too, and I just putting this out there.
Yeah.
I would love for this book to be like a collaboration of, like your heart and my heart and like all these amazing women and people that we've met in our community that we just like pour into this book and it's like
Mm,
opening for whoever reads it. But wouldn't that be so cool?
it would be incredible.
No,
That would be incredible. I'm in.
just putting that out there.
That sounds amazing. Okay.
So many future plans. It's
So
all
many,
happening.
so little time. So many kids to raise.
So many kids parades and soccer games and
And
all
soccer
of that
games
stuff.
and hockey games. So, where do people find you?
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram. My handle is I am MK Stim. That's STIM. So I am MK Stim. That's my Instagram handle. And then my link tree is there and it has all the links to all the things. And just, I'll put my updates on, like I said today and what you read so beautifully, the
Yeah.
workshops and the retreats and the new mastermind that I have coming next year, early next year. So lots of cool things that I just feel like are like want to be birthed into the world. And
Yeah.
I'm trying not to like rush and go so fast because it's all coming so fast. And I'm like, Megan, you can just flow and take your time, right? Like we got to give ourselves grace and like all that, the balance, right?
Balance.
So
Yeah.
anyways, it's also exciting though. Very, very excited and grateful to be here with you today.
It's so hard when you're riding the wave to, you want to stay on the wave, right?
Yeah.
You're riding
Yeah.
the wave and it's also exciting and you want to ride the wave and then you're really tired and
Yeah.
but I get you. I get
Yeah.
you. When the wave is high, you do want to ride it.
Yeah.
But you also need that time to reset the pendulum, the balance, all the things.
Do the
Um,
balance.
my friend at weight training this morning, I was laughing so so much inside and just big smile on my face. She said, "I'm in my no thank you season." And I was like, "What's a no thank you season?" She's like, it's when you just nicely say no thank you to everything and you just sit on your hammock in the sun. And I
That's
was like,
amazing.
a no thank you season? I don't know what that is.
We're gonna have that later in life, maybe.
Okay, the no thank you season.
No, thank you. It's just all about the hammock.
Oh, the hammock in the sun. So funny. Well, I love you dearly. I will put in the comments everywhere you can reach Megan, everywhere you can learn all about her things. She's going to be at the Sunshine Retreat next May with us, God willing, and I guess look for Apricity with us together coming up. So thank you, my friend Megan.
I'm
That's
so grateful.
that's still our little inside joke.
I know, I love it. Thank you. I love you, my friend Allie.
I
And
love
thank
you
you so
too.
much. Thank you for being on this journey with me. And I'm so looking forward to all the beautiful things we're creating together in the world. So,
Ditto, my love.
all right.
I'm going to be honest about something. My closet is a hot mess. There's clothes in there that have no business being in there anymore, and it's way past time for a refresh. Also, let's not even get started about my mom-mobile and pantry. Listen, I have good intentions of being organized, but it's not what I'm gifted at. Luckily, there are incredibly gifted people in this world and in the field of organization, like Creating Harmony, a business that was founded by Heather Kinder in a sweet little beach town called Pawleys Island. She saw a need, ran with it, and now she's helping families create harmony and find value in their spaces. A consultation by phone is free, and Heather will travel based on the project and scope of the work. How cool is that? Visit creatingharmonyco.com to see projects she's worked on and to learn more. Here's a revolutionary thought from a Pod Squad supporter, revolutionarytravel.com. When we adventure travel, the world becomes smaller by expanding our view. When we go somewhere adventurous, we learn that people are people everywhere. And traveling with Rev allows more freedom in our day. It takes us away from comfortable spaces where we often get stuck. Traveling with Rev truly will change the way that we see the world. You can learn more at revolutionarytravel.com, now booking trips to Puerto Rico, Puerto Vallarta, Colombia, and more.